by Barvelve Soap Company, a black-owned and operating business that handcrafts quality and all-natural bar soap made with 7 different oils and minerals, enhanced with a variety of unique scents for men and women. Only at www.barvelve.com.
Conversation, I don't see it as anything really beneficial. I see it as a distraction. Our impetus and our main focus is somehow pulling away from what we should really be focused on, which is reparations. And in the long run, it could cost us. It could cost us every bit of what we're due as reparative damage for slavery. I want to leave it right there, but I could say more.
Okay, well, thank you very much for weighing in on that. I certainly see how it could be beneficial. It could be beneficial, but we would have to craft our own narrative. It can't be one handed to us by the white corporations and their black flunkies and puppets looking at you, Joy Reid, and the rest of the folks over there at MSNBC and CBS and other places. It can't be handed to us by puppets of the white media. They can't define it for us. So I can see how it could be. I could see how it could be beneficial. I could see how it could be a milestone that encompasses our experience and our culture and our lineage. But the first thing I would say is it cannot include in conversation any of the people, immigrants or not. It can't include any of the people brought to you by the white corporate or academic establishment. I would even go so far as to say you really can't include the HBCUs. You really can't include them either, to be totally honest. I don't trust the overwhelming majority of the faculty there to do anything in our interest. So if you could use it beneficially, I don't even think you could bring them into the conversation. Moses 7, go ahead and unmute yourself.
TBA, thank you for the space. Look, does Juneteenth as a federal holiday help foundational Black Americans? It can help if foundational Black Americans use it to the benefit of foundational Black Americans. And look, the Black grassroots, thank goodness for the new Black media, TBA, and the likes of TBA, because people like TBA have been doing the work, pushing reparations and policies that specifically benefit foundational Black Americans because of the work that's been being done. For the last 12 years, I think. Because you guys have been pushing so heavy, now we have a template of utilizing a holiday like Juneteenth to specifically benefit foundational Black Americans. Now, in order for Juneteenth to work, we have to use the template that TBA, Professor Black Truth, and the likes of TBA have put out in the new Black media for us to use to specifically benefit foundational Black Americans. I land.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here. As far as I'm concerned, Juneteenth is worthless if you cannot specifically describe how it tells our story. And that doesn't mean our story doesn't stop at slavery. If it doesn't start there, it doesn't stop there. If it's not being used specifically for that, then my question is, okay, what are you doing? What exactly are you doing? Because when you talk about things like July 4th and the American War for Independence and Declaration of Independence, it's not just about fighting against the British. It is representative, encompassing of the culture, of the mindset. It's that. Let me get, is that Rich Mike? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening, TBA. The main problem with it is that we're not leading the narrative, and other people that have tried to undermine us at every turn are leading the narrative instead of us. If we were the ones, pushing and educating people on the importance of Juneteenth, but we're letting other people push it for their own benefits. Even I think it was you and Professor Black Truth that were saying this is actually going to be something that's going to be used. This upcoming election, they're going to try to say this was a tangible benefit given to us, to comparative to what other tangible benefits other people have received. That's just my main point, is that um, we're not leading the narrative on it. So I don't think it is beneficial as a federal holiday. Thank you.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here. You have to understand, in the 1960s, the federal government was looking for the easiest path possible to buy off black people, to get them out of the streets, to get them placated, and to get them to say, well, they're giving in to our demands. And what you ended up with was civil rights in 1965, 69. You ended up with all these bills. And in reality, it stopped short of what we needed. But in many cases, it got black folk out of the streets. In the last 8 years, since the murder of Trayvon Martin, you have seen the pressure building again. And then after George Floyd, it floods out in the streets and doesn't leave. So next thing you know, what do you see? They go to the same old playbook. Well, let's see if we can throw another thing out there. Remember, after Dr. King was killed, let's make Dr. King a holiday. Now, with black folk getting killed in America, all of a sudden, well, let's make Juneteenth a holiday. This is a playbook. This is a playbook at the federal level. The real thing is, what do we do? What significance or meaning does it have to us? Not what it has to the government or what they intend. What's the significance it has to us? Chuck, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. I'll tell you what, it's when you say, what does it have to do with us? It's we, the people. I mean, in the communities that I live in, I mean, I live here in Cleveland, Ohio, Euclid, I mean, South Euclid, North Cleveland. There's, I mean, different areas. I mean, I have one house, but I work throughout Northeast Ohio. We network. We're we have good neighbors. We have good people. I mean, it's outreach. I mean, without that outreach, you're not going to have anything. But I believe it doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat. Sometimes there are politicians up there that want to swindle everything, and it's disgusting. And it makes me sick to my stomach, man. It's really bad news. I love to watch football, man. And I used to play football, but not professional, of course, no. But I mean, a lot of people like watching sports, like basketball, soccer, hockey, stuff like that. We can't let these politicians, dictate or decide how our country's going to go. The people have a lot of say, and it's. I mean, I don't really know how to go about it.
How do
I'm
you
gonna let
feel?
somebody else
How do
speak.
you feel about the purpose of Juneteenth, Chuck?
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, why not? I mean, you got Father's Day, you got Mother's Day. I mean, that's just a made up, just like what's a Hallmark? What's that one? The Sweetest Day, not Valentine's Day. Sweet, well, both of them are actually. I mean, that actually celebrates the release of certain people in certain captivity. I mean, a lot of people were in captivity way before America. Over in Jesus Christ, the Roman Empire, they're the biggest orchestrators of slavery, and they kept their own people slaves. I'm not saying I was one of them. And trust me, my ancestry probably didn't come from a Catholic, or I'm sorry, Greek, or whatever you call that down there.
And Chuck,
Yeah,
what do you believe the government owes Black Americans, descendants of slaves?
I believe that everything should be equal across the board. And I went to school in Virginia, the Old Dominion, and I'm telling you, and it was a Fishburne military school, and we had all. I mean, trust me, we had different cultures there. Everybody, there are different skin tones. It's understandable. A lot of times you don't understand it. Sometimes you don't. When you're young, you're
That's
growing up.
not
But when
exactly
you play
that's not
sports,
exactly answering my question,
I'm
Chuck.
sorry.
So
Yeah,
I'll,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll try again.
Yeah,
What
sorry.
do you believe? If it's not Juneteenth, and there's an argument to make from that. What do you believe this government owes Black people who are the descendants of slaves?
I believe they owe them a lot, and I believe they owe them um, omission to the fact that back then we had some very bad people that made bad decisions. People like us won't make those bad decisions because then we grew up with people in different colors, and we loved them. We Michael. I mean, like I said,
We're
if
glad to
you
hear
got
that,
no,
but
no, I
Chuck,
like your question. I'm going to answer your question.
a lot isn't a number, so
See, they didn't
it's not
allow
describing.
white people to mix with black people back then, so they couldn't get to know each other, and that's bullshit. And that's what was wrong. And Abraham Lincoln saw. I believe he did. I
Right,
didn't grow up. I'm only
Chuck,
going on
what
history
do you think we should do today, though, Chuck?
today.
What should
Okay.
we do today?
I do believe there should be a unity, monthly. It could be every month.
Mayo
Not a
mumble.
federal holiday. A unity like once a week.
Mayo mumbling. All right,
All right, I'm
Chuck.
sorry.
Here's the issue here. We should get together once a month and do what,
Unite.
Chuck?
Unite.
Unite. What does unite mean? What does that mean? Like
Just
church?
no. I'm gonna. Church is cool. I'm not gonna be mean when I say discredit church. I mean like through sports or athletics.
We already
It
do that for 16 weeks in the
Yeah,
NFL and
you're
almost
right.
every
You're
night
right.
in the
Exactly. The
NBA.
Broncos do it. I love it. I'm a Broncos fan for life. They're
Right,
doing a
but
great job.
what you're not saying is what should be done specifically for black people who are the descendants of slaves that Juneteenth
I want to
applies
know
to.
your input. I don't
Okay.
understand. I'm sorry.
All
I'll
right.
listen.
Well, Chuck, I can probably figure out why you don't understand. I couldn't help but notice all the MAGA paraphernalia on your profile page.
Well, I
So
mean, just because I like Trump
perhaps,
doesn't mean I'm anti. I mean,
yeah,
he loves
per
everybody.
right,
I
but
mean,
well,
I hope so. At least I hope he does.
I've heard him say he hates plenty of folk too, but
Yeah.
that's very subjective. Although it doesn't matter to me who he likes or who he doesn't like. The real thing is about tangibles. So
Right.
when we talk about what needs to be done for black people in regard to Juneteenth, the issue we have is a federal holiday is an intangible. We're
Right.
discussing that the whole purpose of Juneteenth was things were tangibly taken from us, and we were tangibly put at an outrageous disadvantage in society. So anyone saying today, well, what needs to be done? The first thing we're listening for are tangibles. The
Right.
only thing that we have been given, in the words of Dr. Claude Anderson, we have not been elevated in one place in the last 170 years, except socially. That socializing thing you just mentioned. Well,
Right.
we can go to church with white folks and we can go to the football games with white folks,
Right.
but they've got all the money, all the tangibles, all the valuables, all of the societal upward movement, and all the control. And we're sitting over here basically being the household pets.
That's
So
not
the whole
right. They
idea
should
is
not. You
what
got that. I don't believe that should ever be right because I mean, trust me. I mean, one of my colonels down there at Fishburne before I joined the Marine Corps, he was he was a black American. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. Colonel Baker, the guy's awesome. He was United States Army almost I don't know like 17 years, but then he went to a military school and decided to teach us kids, how to get along with each other. But like, no, I know what you're saying. You're right. There's a lot of bigotry and there's definitely tons of race. But the thing with the race part, you're not really going to get rid of a lot of it. Let the good people
we're
unite with
not
each
trying to
other,
do
and
that.
let the
But
evil people just go about
Chuck, I
themselves.
want you to understand something. Everybody
Yeah,
here listening already knows.
I'm sorry.
Notice this isn't about eliminating racism. We're not the least bit interested or thinking
Right,
about eliminating racism. Like you said about Trump, Trump loves everybody. You notice my response was that's kind of irrelevant whether he loves me or hates me. The
right,
real thing is when you have resources, then whether they love you or whether they hate you, they cannot harm you. Now, when you are deliberately impoverished and kept in an artificially impoverished state, well, that makes you very easy to harm by people
true.
who don't love you. So the
I
real
agree
thing
with
is,
you.
what do you do for people who are artificially impoverished and artificially handicapped socially and socioeconomically? What do we do for them, Chuck?
Then we eliminate the federal government. Not like the presidents. I mean, here's the thing. If I do that, they call me a 3%. If I decide I want to eliminate the federal
MAGA
government, I
bambo.
think I think they just decided. I think that they do a lot of bad things to people, and that sucks. That really sucks
Okay,
really bad.
how, Chuck? I've got an
Yeah,
idea.
I'm no.
I have an idea.
I won't waste your time.
Well,
Ask me
Chuck,
one more
slow
time, and
down.
I'll
I
answer
got
it.
one more. I have another question.
Yeah,
You're
go
doing
ahead.
great. You're doing great so far,
I'm
Chuck. You're
trying to,
doing great.
man. Trust me. I mean,
Okay.
I'm gonna
On
answer through my heart, not
Okay,
through
that's glad to see. On
politics.
Valentine's Day, we give out candy. On July 4th, we use fireworks.
Right.
For Juneteenth, Chuck, how about reparations?
100%. I would do it. But nobody's going to allow me to be in public office. Trust me on that one.
So you're in
I'm
favor.
a Marine, but I'm a Marine who likes to drink, and trust me, I have a good history. I mean, I have a good military jacket, but I still,
Okay.
I'm a party animal. But
So
they'll
you're
never
in.
allow me to be president.
So you support financial cash
I
reparations.
100%, especially here in Ohio, and I really hope Mike DeWine actually will do that. I'm not a part of the GOP. I believe I do donate to certain Republican commissions here, and I live in Euclid, first of all, which is we're very cultural up here. But the thing is, it almost feels like every time we try to do something, it just gets they put it right back in your face, like nothing's going to happen. So
Well,
it's almost
Chuck,
like
it'll
beating
be
a dead
coming
horse.
your way. Chuck, it'll be coming your way. So when it
that's fine.
does, we are certainly looking to have your support on that.
Oh, dude, I will have your support all the way. Trust me, I'm already changing my tights. I know you guys can look at my profile. Yeah, I like Mag, and because Trump says he loves everybody. But here's the thing: I don't know Trump from birth. I don't know him for nothing. I'm not saying he's a bad guy either. I'm just saying there are too many evils out there, and you're right. Especially your culture has been.
All we really need is your support at the time.
I will support you.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here. So Chuck is wired for sound, is what he is. So, but he says that he supports cash reparations. So don't be surprised, Chuck, if that's not rhetoric and gets put to the test. Blue Moon 34. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, Mr. Black. Honestly, when it wasn't a federal holiday, white people weren't talking about that much. They didn't care. But just as soon as it became a federal holiday, why do I get the feeling that it became a trinket for them to say, "Oh, we gave black people something"? To be honest, I think Juneteenth should be celebrated with honestly, we should celebrate with respect, because this is what happened to our people. Our people, the people that we descended from. It shouldn't be commercialized. It shouldn't be used as a political strategy for them to boost their numbers. Because to be honest, they're trying everything in their power just to get the black vote back.
Well, certainly it is obviously a naked, shameless ploy on their part to try to say that, hey, we did something. I told everybody when this happened before that what they're going to say is, well, we did do something specifically for black people. And then we say, no, we mean specifically the descendants of slaves. We did do something. Why Juneteenth? That's what they're going to say. So everybody else gets tangibles and resources, and they're going to tell us a symbolic celebration that's tantamount to reparations, what they're doing for everyone else. The real question becomes, do we have the will? Do we possess the will to take something? Follow me here. Do we possess the will to take something? Okay, if this is something that's been put out there and this is something from our specific origin, but someone wishes to corrupt it, do we have the will to make sure that that does not occur? Do we have the will to take a stand and go to war and claim the block for what is ours? That's the question I think we should ask now. Regardless of where it's come from in this regard, it does have a legitimate origin. We also understand that it's being used and manipulated. But do we have the will to claim and to retake what belongs to us?
I think we do. I mean, we decided that we're not going to stand for symbols anymore. I mean, look how we just toppled Kamala Harris's campaign. We didn't fall for the same bullshit like we did the last time with Barack Obama, and we still intend not to fall for the bullshit now. I think if we just keep our eyes on that goal with not falling for the same political bullshit, the same political strategy, we can take over the narrative of Juneteenth as being an FBA holiday that celebrates and commends our people's struggle and strength, instead of it being, oh, we just did it for black people because it's a tangible,
Well, that's the real thing, is letting them know that we are a more sophisticated group than the civil rights generation was. The civil rights generation was beaming with pride to be at the White House, to have something signed. This generation has to demonstrate that we are fundamentally different. Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Let me get Brooklyn native. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, how you doing, my brother? I just I'm more mental about things. Like, I'm tired of being a victim, right? Like, it goes back into they showed us roots. Like, they play games with our feelings. They keep us, 1 minute we aggressive, we predators in the streets, next minute they victims. It's part of keeping us in a victim, y'all slaves. A lot of us well, I don't say a lot of us, but a lot of us blacks here been here through history, deep history. We've been here. Everybody, great parents and all of that is, didn't come from slavery. Every black person, so that's part of keeping us enslaved. Like the guy said, I don't want a handout. I don't want, because if you give, I work. I'm a plumber. I don't think we should be giving things. I think things should be set up for us through politics and laws where we could, because if you give somebody something, it could go the next day. I'm saying like build us up through like education, like get our schools correct, like start talking about business.
Let me find out. Are you referring to reparations? Did you believe the reparations should take the form of, for example, education scholarships or something like that?
Yeah, like automatically businesses. Like, don't get me wrong, a few dollars won't be bad.
Let me locate.
Yeah.
For everybody who hasn't had the Cliff Notes course on this, brother, give this a few moments to think this over. Because every time somebody says something like, well, reparations should take the form of something other than direct cash payments, these folks usually haven't thought this through. So let's take a look at your education suggestion. Do you see a fundamental flaw with the suggestion of, well, it can take the form of education that simply cannot be overcome?
I understand what you're saying. No, I understand what you're saying.
I asked a question. If you see it, then please, for the sake of the audience, please articulate it, sir.
No, what I'm trying to say is, I'm not saying a few dollars or putting something.
I'm saying in any form you want. I'm saying
a person can lose something. You can give a person a home, and if they not properly,
there's a fundamental flaw in that too. Let me go ahead and educate you about this. We've talked about this many times before. You don't want to say that, we'll use education in any way in which you define
not
it.
That small. Not that small.
Sir,
I just tried to use an example.
Okay,
all right,
sir.
Okay.
You were asked a question. Time to ease back, sir.
All right.
Okay. You asked a question. I offered you an opportunity to explain. You're not clear on this. Let me go ahead and clear you up on this. The reason why that suggestion of education in any form, in any way, no matter how you wish to describe it, if you're attempting to evade a direct cash payment in the form of, quote, education, the first problem is you're making that open to interpretation. Education can mean whatever the person's saying it wishes to mean. A check isn't open to interpretation. Either you got it or you
direct,
didn't. Okay, sir. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute your microphone because I've asked you to stop talking. People cannot hear the both of us. So you asked a question. You were given an opportunity to speak. So for now, just hold on. I'll see if we can let you speak later, but you have to stop. Okay. The reason why your suggestion does not work is because if you attempt to make it in the form of quote unquote education, it is defined however the person saying the word wishes to define it. And that can mean scholarships, that can mean pre-K, that can mean daycare, that can mean going to community college, that can mean going to Ivy League, though it probably won't. That can mean going to the Wharton School of Business, though it probably won't. And even if it did, everybody doesn't benefit from the government education system or the private education system. So that one can't be it. By definition, it can't be. That's a fundamentally broken thing. Also, if you needed more evidence, you've got some of the most educated folk in America right now in Black society, particularly Black women, fell for that. Go to college. Who's most in debt for student loans? Black women. And who are the poorest? Black women. So in other words, all that degree chasing hasn't actually translated into any tangible benefit whatsoever. You got a degree, but you can't force the private sector to honor your degree. That's the problem. So it doesn't matter in which direction you take that. Education is a relative thing. Furthermore, take a look at Donald Trump. That guy wasn't educated. Neither was George W. Bush or H.W. Bush. None of those guys were seen as a brain trust. They became president of the United States. We can go through the corporate 500, Fortune 500 companies and Silicon Valley. Looking at you, Mark Zuckerberg on this website, Twitter. What's his name? Dorsey here. None of these guys are a brain trust. None of them are geniuses. And yet, look where they are standing in society, in the world. Elon Musk has what? Autism or whatever? That didn't affect him. So what it tells you is, you can't put too much of that in education. Obviously, that's not the key, because if that were the key, these guys never would have made it. The more educated people would have gotten ahead of them. You can't make it in the form of land. If you do, land without the ability to develop it is completely useless. If you, however, make it in the form of cash payments, now that isn't open to interpretation. It isn't open to movement. It isn't open to manipulation. It isn't open to redefining. Now, if your concern is what the people would do with it, well, people misuse money all the time. Second and third generations misuse it all the time. We can't let that be the fear of what we're worried about, that some people will not use it responsibly. There are plenty of people with college degrees who spend themselves right into bankruptcy. That happens every single day. So, quote, education, quote, access to business, all that's nice. And don't get me wrong, on the periphery, sure, I believe in reparations on all levels. Sure, I would sign off on that too. What I will not do is sign off on, quote, education without cash payments. Now, I'll sign off on cash payments without education, or I'll sign off on cash payments with education, or with access to business, or with land, just so long as that cash payment part is not missing. Anything else is going to be a bait and switch. You can't avoid it. That idea that you were given before about putting it in a trust. Guess what? Social Security is a government administered trust fund. For those of you who are wondering, Social Security that we're all supposedly paying into, well, that's a government administered trust fund too. How's that working out? No, I don't want to leave any dime in their hands. It's just like anybody else. The government of the United States is like any other person who owes me money. When I see you, you need to pay when I see you. If I gave somebody $1,000 in Shreveport, Louisiana, I'll be damned if I'm going to come find him in 6 months of him running around for me. And then when I catch up to him, I say, okay, where's my money? And he says, well, let me establish a trust fund on your behalf, and it would be available to you in 30 years. No. You got 1,000. I need to get my 1,000 plus. Does that make sense to you? Brooklyn native, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. All that makes sense. I'm just saying, like, when people speaking, like, you get the perception that there's no white, like the guy that was there, like, it's like if you speak to someone that's black, they won't think that is poor white. Like, I know it's people that I got more money than that's white.
Okay, what does that mean?
You got poor white, meaning like things ain't really, the whole perception of all blacks is down, there's no white, that just comes with more of a, like, like I said,
Okay.
I'll take a few dollars. I'll take a few dollars with things, but other things have to be set in place. Like you said, land, how to own your house, certain things, business wise, teaching people how to think about,
Brooklyn native,
how to keep money.
do you see us as oppressed in a system of white supremacy?
Yes. In certain ways,
in
yes.
certain ways. What ways are we not oppressed?
people going to get trades, to go out there and get go to a trade school, pay a few dollars, take money to pay make money.
Okay, you live in Brooklyn, New York. Who has the
Yeah,
majority of the trade jobs and union jobs in Brooklyn, sir?
the Spanish.
Okay, well, you're talking about white
Yeah,
folk. Actually, you're talking about white folks, sir.
no, you're
Not
talking about general contractors, of course, the
okay.
general but I work
Right.
for a lot of Italian,
Okay.
Greeks.
Right.
Uh, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm
And
basically
and
those. They
and
the ones that's
who
getting the contracts out there.
who has the least?
The blacks.
Why?
Yeah,
Okay, got that part. Why?
because it was a plan for us to be at the back.
Oh, okay. So in other words, we are oppressed, even
Yes,
in the
I know that.
trades. Thank you, sir.
Nah, I'm not coming off. I don't want to come off like I don't think we
Right.
oppressed.
Okay.
I'm just
So
saying we can't be
there
victims.
is no
We gotta
area,
fight through that.
in the words of Neely Fuller, there is no area of human activity that whites do not control.
Of course they doing the trickery with us, brother.
Right.
I know they doing the trickery. I'm on these sites. I'm fighting. I'm the only black. Every company I go to, that's on my dead mama, man. I'm the only black American in these shanties, talking, speaking up for the blacks. Like I ain't dumb.
Well, I'm
I
glad
know
to hear that.
exactly what's going
Well,
on. I
I
know what's
want you to
going
stay
on,
on what's
brother. And I'm
going on. Thank
fighting
you very much. We appreciate that. Certainly, yes, folks. There's no area that we're not oppressed in. You can't name a single one. It doesn't exist. Maybe if we set up a satellite on Mars, we'll see. Let me get LB. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for letting me on. So to answer the original question about Juneteenth as a Fed holiday help black folks, the answer is no. And because once again, it's a situation where everybody benefits. But the problem I have with that is not everyone is going through the black struggle. And then on top of that, you got these companies out here profiting off of black trauma and all that, like Walmart. They were out here trying to sell Juneteenth ice cream and crap. What the hell? What the hell is that? So it's okay to put Juneteenth as a holiday, but not hand out reparations. And last
Well,
time I checked,
that's something to think about. That is actually something to think about in that regard. And this is what I mean by, are we ready to take power? Let me tell you something that might upset a bunch of you, but we need to understand this. If we're going to exercise power, you know what that means? Yeah, that does mean internally, but it also means externally. And if someone uses something that belongs to us, they need to pony up and pay for it. If they use something that belongs to us, then there's supposed to be only a certain limited means through which you do that. For example, if you're talking about something like kosher meats, it doesn't matter who you are. The meat ain't kosher if it's not coming from Jewish people. It's not kosher if it isn't. So it doesn't matter what your store wants to do. You got to go through the proper channels to get that. And if it is going to be something that pertains to foundationals, there needs to be authentic, and then everything else needs to be bootleg. So you see, if you're going to do this kind of thing, then you've got to have an authenticity that goes with it, and it's got to be enforced. It has to be strictly enforced by the holders of it. So when you have something like a Walmart or whatever, they want to capitalize on those kind of things, or if you have Google, all these folk here, all these folk need to be required to pay, and they need to be required to get that stamp of authenticity. Now, this is going to be something. For example, you got reparations in California. I think that's a good first step because all these Silicon Valley companies are headquartered out of California. And part of reparations should be, hey, on your YouTube, that discrimination you all do against black YouTubers, yeah, you need to be required to pony up for that. We don't even, of course, it needs to be money, but also in what you do. Places like Walmart and whatnot, like I say, the LGBT community has done a very good job of letting folks know, hey, you got to do things our way, through our rules, through these people. Jewish folk have done the same thing. Asians have done the same thing. Black folk need to, especially foundationals, need to be the exact same way. Now that we understand that this is going on, it now needs to be made very clear to these folk, hey, it's not legit. It is not legit. And we're going to make sure that everybody understands that we're not going to just sit here and that we're not going to be quiet about that. We're not going to be quiet about it. We're going to make it very clear. We should be 10 times as loud as the LGBT folk. 10 times. So it's good that we recognize and identify these things. That's good. But the most important part about having a code is that that code serves you. Because you and me can't sell t-shirts and can't sell Chinese t-shirts in Chinatown. You and me can't do that. They wouldn't have it.
I totally agree. I mean, we sitting up here and we look, I believe in this also, right? When it comes to belief, right? We can't sit up here and say we believe, but not willing to do what's necessary to attain our power. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we know what the definition of reparation is. It's cash payments. All this other stuff is not reparations. Because when we sitting up here and try to introduce everything else into the equation, look, it's black and white. So much confusion because we out here trying to introduce all this gray area. The fact of the matter is, reparations is cash payments. Straight out the Webster's dictionary. It is cash payments to a group that is owed to an atrocity being done. Period. Housing vouchers, education, all that other nonsense, that's not reparations. Then on top of that, we can't sit up here and put on a few black folks because they got a lot of income and think that's wealth. Look, we can, Dr. Claude Anderson talked about this. There's only a few black folks that we can count on our palms that has the money and resources necessary. We can't look at that and point to that and be like, oh, well, these white folks ain't gonna give us no reparations because, these black folks ain't got all this money. No, that's confusion. We need to stay focused on what the issue is. The fact it is, reparations on the table is the first, last, and only thing. Don't let them distract, deflect, or deny what we owe, period.
Well, definitely going forward here, I want folks to understand, if you have black attorneys, for example, that's what you're supposed to be having them for now. You're supposed to be having them for this. Having Al Sharpton, them showing up at Barney's, that doesn't really help black folk as a group. That doesn't help us as a group. If you really want things like Juneteenth to work for you and you assert yourself, what you do is you take one piece of real estate and then you start leveraging that piece of real estate. Juneteenth is cultural real estate. We're supposed to be leveraging that. Everybody needs to pony up because everybody owes. We already know that everybody owes. So if you got that, you're supposed to be using it for everybody. Walmart, Target, and they're not supposed to have a say in the matter. For the LGBT folk, if they go to your business and you ain't got a rainbow flag, there's somebody sitting up there switching their hips saying, oh, where's your rainbow flag? I don't see it. Shouldn't you have one here? At Disney and everything else, they're sitting up there in the damn CEO's office. Where's the rainbow flag? Yeah. It's December, but where's the rainbow flag? We need to see that. So as black folk, yeah, we need to be on that right there. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. As far as I'm concerned, if you're an attorney, you're not legit if you're not talking about that. Because if the Church of Scientology could use it that way, we need to be triple about that life. Sarah Soprano, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Jason Black, what's up, my brother?
Black first, what's on your mind?
First of all, does Juneteenth as a federal holiday help us as black people, as FBA? I think yes, to a degree it does. And I say that because there are brothers and sisters who are leveraging their economics to make things happen in the community, such as selling shirts or selling oils or whatever they're selling, whatever products they're bringing to the table. These are things that we can partake in and say that tag on the back of that shirt needs to say made by FBA in the USA. These are things that we can do. But a lot of us are not doing it. Why? Because we just don't believe that we should do it. We have a problem with power.
Well, I mean, and let's try this a different way, though. I mean, it's only been 1 year since they trotted this mess out. So This is new. This isn't a conversation that's been going on for decades. It's a conversation that's going on now, although I think it's important to have that conversation now. Remember, when you're talking about the founding of a nation, when you talk whether it's the Magna Carta and declaring independence or America, understand when they got together in Philadelphia, there was a lot of talk, there was a lot of debate, and then they moved forward. As Black people, the whole reason that you had this schism for so long is we were on the plantations and then we were just let loose. In a perfect world, we would have been able to do like the whites, so-called founders of America, and everybody else. We would have been able to get together as a group. There would have been a like constitutional convention, if you will, and we would have decided, number one, who we were as a people, number two, what we're about, and number three, what we're going to do. Because that's what the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights do. That's what those documents do. They say who we are. I'm talking about the founders. It says who we are. We're the real folk. Then Black folk, you only 3/5 of a person. It says what we're here to do and how we're going to do it. And that's what we're doing right now. We are mapping this out at the beginning of the discussion rather than waiting 30 years down the line to define it, at which point you've allowed everyone else to define what it is except you. So it's new. It's new. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but that's the real reason why I want to have this conversation right now at the very beginning. I don't want our kids or grandkids waking up in 2055 with somebody throwing a rainbow flag over it and saying this is Juneteenth.
They're already trying that.
Well, and we know they're going to try. Of course, they're going to try. I mean, they're the bad guys. It's like Dexter's Laboratory. It's like Dr. Robotnik. You know, they're going to do it. They're the bad guys. It's what they do. Right. Our job is to make sure they don't succeed. Thank you very much for checking in with us here. Let me get Etz Chaim. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, how's it going, man?
What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm a white guy. I support reparations 100%. And
do you support cash reparations?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. To be specific, yeah, absolutely. I think as Juneteenth being like a federal holiday or whatever, or I just don't think anybody should be able to use it in any sort of way that's a detriment to, the Black man and woman or family. And something else that I don't know if there's something out there like that, so forgive me if it's not a new idea, but a comprehensive list of like different companies, all types of things that that anyone could participate in that are doing a detriment to the Black community, especially like, I'm talking like big corporations and stuff, because I think, like I said, I'm absolutely in support of cash reparations, but that's something that aggressive proactiveness to where these companies are forced to they just have no choice, like you said with the LGBT thing, Well,
let me find out here, Etz. I couldn't help but notice from your name here. So are you a fundamentalist Hebrew?
No, I'm not, brother. I'm I believe humanity started in Africa, and my wife's mixed with Filipina and Black, and
well, let me are you Jewish?
No, I'm like, I don't know, Irish or something.
Okay. Well, he's false flagging. I hope he doesn't get caught in Brooklyn. But we're very glad to see that we have your support on that. So definitely thank you very much for checking in with us. Yeah, don't let him get caught in the Hasidic neighborhood. They're going to be like, okay, we're going to twist your braids for you. Let me get 20twin38. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Peace, brother Black. What's going on?
Black first, brother. What's on your mind?
The only way we'll be able to benefit if we control it from top to bottom. That goes for the corporations, even down to the little old guy on these street vendors. Like Frank White said in the movie King of New York, if a nickel bag gets sold in the park, we want in.
Well, let me give you an idea about that. I'll let you finish your thought. Let me give you an idea about that. If we're going to have a holiday, starting the discussion of us protected class Should you be allowed to sell Juneteenth paraphernalia if you are not a descendant of slaves? Should you be allowed to do that? I
I
think
don't.
that's a fundamental question that we need to start asking ourselves. I'm talking about the city level, not even at the federal level. At the city level, should you be allowed to move any weight if you're not, if you're counterfeit? If you're not, I mean, when we talk about Louis Vuitton bags and stuff, if you're not actually an authentic member of the culture, should you be allowed to do anything like that?
No, and I don't think so because no other group, no other culture would allow us to sell anything of their culture to them as well. Like we won't be able to sell any Chinese chopsticks to an Asian person. So I don't think anyone should be able to do that as well.
I think that's a fundamental way we should take a look at it. When we say that we should be owning this and stuff, it's like that shouldn't be a suggestion. That should be a command. Something for us to think about. Thank you very much for checking in with us here. Let me get Flex Don. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, to answer the question, no, I don't feel like it benefits Black people at all because, like somebody else said, we don't control the narrative, and everybody benefits off, the holiday. It's not like a Jewish holiday where only Jews celebrate that holiday. Everybody celebrates Juneteenth, just like everybody, celebrates Black History Month. It's not specifically for Blacks; it's for everybody.
Well, certainly it needs to be for descendants of slaves and foundationals. And once you start letting it go and you don't protect it or safeguard it, then it becomes just like Valentine's Day. Next thing you know, everybody's out there and it loses its significance. If it ever actually had any to begin with, it loses it. And I'm not here for throwing that away. I'm not at all interested in throwing that away. But if it's going to be here, then it needs to serve our interests. If it's going to exist and it's going to be here, I'm not going to have the federal government step in and then say, oh, this belongs to everybody. The hell it does. Just because the feds finally showed up a century later, they don't get to jump in and declare this is for everyone. Thank you very much for checking in with us here. Afro Bubbles, go ahead and unmute yourself. Afro Bubbles, go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, Afro Bubbles must be taking a bubble bath.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
Afro Bubble. Okay, she was rubbing herself up and down. She finally decided to free up one hand. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think you're fabulous. I thank you for everything you've done for us down through the years. You're awesome. As far as Juneteenth, it's ours. I feel like we should celebrate it. I mean, we legitimately should put it on a pedestal. We deserve that, but we've got to take control of the commercialization of it and the representation of it. We have to do that. We can't allow the dominant society to bastardize it. And I'll land there.
I absolutely agree. Thank you very much for checking in with us here. Let me get Black BLK. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
To answer your question, I do not believe that Juneteenth was put here to help us. I believe it was given to us as a way to pacify us, and I think they gave it to us as a way to give themselves a gift. However, as you said, if it's going to be here, I believe we have to control it from top to bottom and stop allowing people to try to co-opt it. And to actually answer your question as to whether or not do we have the power to take it back. I do believe we have the power if we're strong enough to stay on code about doing so. I believe the power to take things back for ourselves as a people depends heavily upon our code, and that's all.
Well, all it takes is a small group of determined individuals. It doesn't take the masses. The masses don't get things done. A small group of determined individuals who won't move. Next thing you know, the rest of the society starts moving along with it. So it doesn't even take it's never going to be a majority. It doesn't take a majority if there are just enough of us. Let me get the King of Fools. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, guys. Three comments, if I could. I'm Latino. My pops is black, and my mother is Colombian. To that statement made many times that can we take it back? Will we resist complacency and pacification? I say no. Two, definitely reparations cannot just come in one form. It can't just be cash payments. It can't just be, medical or education. It has to be all of those, and
Well,
together at
if
the
you
same
have the
time.
cash payments, you can get those other things. But go ahead.
Well, the way it looks like it's going to work is that there has to be a committee of independent black leaders put together and put in charge of these funds so that they can disperse it to the areas that need it, and whether it's cash, whether it's community, building up the communities, whether it's education, whatever, and then the committee will decide who gets
Okay,
cash,
well,
who
no,
gets
it would
what.
no, it really no. The only purpose is like with the Jews. The only purpose would be to determine who is eligible, and then they get it. They're just like they're doing with Asians now, like they do with Native Americans. No, sir, no committees to take care of it for us. It's the only thing is to determine who is supposed to be the beneficiary, and then it goes to them. So, no, sir, it doesn't involve that, not
I
at all.
I don't believe. I believe honestly, if you just give out cash payments like you say, I think a lot of it's going to be misused, and it's just going to
Okay,
do
but
a lot
sir,
of damage.
that's with anything. Government misuses taxpayer funds. All this. Show me anything where there's a certain number of people who don't misuse it. That's a given. That's not an excuse to not do it. From the largest corporation to the smallest church, there. If the argument is, "Ooh, somebody might misuse it," or "Someone will misuse it," by that definition, a dollar would never move in this society or this planet.
I That's just what I've heard under the grapevine over here. That
Yeah, I mean that's what I was
it's a
saying to the earlier
committee,
caller, but that's why I'm correcting you on
and
that. Is
that's what
I'm
most of the
understanding
leaders are
what you're
leaning
saying
toward
is
right now.
right, but sir, that's why I said to the earlier caller, he said the same thing. And every time somebody says this, I want you all to memorize this. By that definition, you would never move a dollar in this society because from Walmart to your local church, there is always a misuse of funds. That's not an excuse not to move the machine forward. That's not
Well,
a reason not to do it. So
you're
what else you got?
contradicting yourself a little bit because you're saying that the government's going to misuse it, but then we know if we give it directly to the people, they'll misuse it. So either way, some
But it
of the
belongs to the
reparations
people.
will get misused.
Yeah, but it won't be misused by every. First of all, it belongs to the people, not the government. That's the first thing. Second of all, some people will misuse it, but that's their choice to do so. It's theirs. It is theirs. It belongs to them to misuse it. If they wish to do that, then oh well, so be it. But you don't penalize the folks who will not misuse it by saying, oh, we need to protect the ones who might.
Okay, I
That
mean,
is their choice.
I respectfully disagree, and I'd like to actually go back to my first comment that we will actually be pacified and complacent before we ever get anywhere, and that actually comes from history because on my mom's side, I know for a fact that the Latino people in South America got it way worse for way longer than African Americans did, and still to this day, our whole continent is rolled over. All Latinos just rolled over. They even just embraced the white man's, Christianity, the whole Jesus story, and that's actually just psychological slavery. So we all just, you know, we're like, yeah, we're not physical slaves anymore, but now we're mental slaves, and and they're controlling us using these religions and stuff. And
Well, we
I don't
resisted.
think.
The whole thing is we have a separate culture because we resisted those things to the point that they are white supremacists in roving bands and uproar because we've never assimilated in that way. So our experience has been markedly different. But back to what you were saying before, Native Americans, they got their reparations and some of them misuse it, correct. There are others who do not. So by definition, Jewish people who got their reparations. Some of them misused it. Some of them became alcoholics. Some of them became drug addicts. Yeah, some of them did. That's not a reason to deny the people who don't misuse it.
There are pros and cons to both, paths, and that is for, the power struggle to figure it out which way it's going to go. I
That's what
personally
I'm here
am
for.
just opposite your opinion. And, and I would actually just ask you, like, like you said, will we be able to not be pacified? Will we be able to not be fall complacent? And I say no because, we got it too good. We got smartphones and all this, and with every generation, the people forget, bro. It's like only the people who walked the bridges, who were in the civil rights movement, remember how bad it was. And that's what happened to us Latinos. They did something in behavioral analysis. It's called fading. Little by little, they chip away over the generations, and our kids will literally become more passive and more passive, more passive. Why?
Okay,
Because they grow
well,
up with Juneteenth. They
sir,
grow up
if
with,
Harriet
LeBron and
Tubman,
all this stuff.
sir, Harriet Tubman, even in the midst of chattel slavery, said, I freed many slaves. I could have freed many more if I had been able to convince them that they were slaves. So they didn't require cell phones, tennis shoes, and big screen TVs back then to keep a lot of people complacent.
I'm talking about their tools of complacency, the tools that they use to make us docile, to
Yes,
pacify
sir. What
us,
I'm
are
saying
very
is that
different than the Harriet
that's not
Tubman days.
new. What I'm saying is your concern, what you're worried about, isn't new. That's been here. So that's not something for us to be worried about because that's been here.
Right,
There
and I
will
don't believe
always
we can
be those
overcome
who
it.
get. No, there are some people who will not overcome it. Of course. But as I said, you cannot allow that there's a minority of individuals, as with always, who will misuse, be irresponsible, be reckless, be left behind. That's just called humanity. That's just called man. That's just called nature. But that's not a reason to not let the government do what it is owed to do and required to do.
Well,
That's not a justification for it.
I'm not talking about reparations anymore. I'm talking about the fact that as a majority, Black people, just like Latinos, will not be able fall not fall complacent and not fall pacified to all this stuff that's happening. And eventually you'll see 50 years down the line, everything's going to be just as bad. It's just on the down low, and you still have no power because people will be pacified and think they have power, like some of the people I've heard speaking. And as you said, you pointed out, no sir, in fact you do not have power. And this, like you say, this
Okay, if
generation,
the answer is not reparations, then what is?
you're at no point in time I said reparations is the answer. It's just it can't be in one form. It has to be in many different forms. So because you have to be careful, because if it's only in one form, it's easier for them to manipulate
Okay, but
and take control.
all the other forms are already pre-manipulated. Cash payments are
Not
the only.
again.
Okay, sir. Cash payments are the only form that is not open to interpretation. All your other things are open to interpretation and are parceled out to you they're rationed out to you at their will. Cash payments will give you all those things you're talking about. Wouldn't cash payments provide all of that?
No, and again, that's your opinion and you're entitled to it.
Okay, well,
But
tell me tell me which one of the suggestions you have that cash payments would not to the individual that they wouldn't be able to go get on their own.
can you maybe repeat and rephrase the question?
Okay, if you think that cash payments alone isn't necessary, cash payments by itself won't get the job done. Name for me whatever other things you think need to be bundled with it that giving someone cash payments they won't be able to go get on their own.
Schools where they actually have nice facilities and
But
technology. So
if you have cash payments, you can send your kids to the best schools.
the best schools, as you know, are indoctrination facilities where they actually push white
Okay,
agenda.
you're the one who mentioned schools. You didn't say anything about that. But the bottom line is, if you have the money, you can send your kids to whatever school you wish.
Like Harvard.
What else you got? Yes, sir. What
Okay,
else
but
you got?
Harvard is run by white people, and everything they
Sir,
feed people is like white propaganda. So I'm confused.
the society's run by white people, but you're the one who said education sending to school. So you're the one
Right.
who said that.
Well,
So
so maybe I
if
can
you give them
elaborate a
cash
little bit for
payments,
you.
no, sir, no.
Okay.
If you give them cash payments, they can go to whatever school you think is acceptable. Now, what else you got?
I'll just elaborate if you don't mind. So, like I said,
No,
most
sir. No,
schools
sir.
are
No,
indoctrination
sir.
facilities.
We're not, sir. You're the
Okay.
one who said schools. I'm
So
saying that's not
I
even
respectfully
necessary.
disagree with your opinion. And
Okay.
that's it. I was just gonna say that we actually will get.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead and let the caller go here, folks. Like I say, they're young people. They kind of tie themselves in knots. They allow themselves to get scared because he articulated the same thing that the other fellow was talking about. Ooh, there might be some folk who don't use it right. It's number one, it's not your job to pocket watch them. Number two, as I pointed out before, there are PhDs, Hollywood celebrities, major corporations that misuse their funds and go broke all the time. Investment banks, 2008. We had to bail out the investment banks. These are supposed to be the smartest financial minds on the planet. The smartest financial minds on the planet, and they need to be bailed out by the taxpayers. So we're going to give it to government and let the government decide, okay, we'll decide what land you get and where and what school you get and where. No, do like you did with the Jews and the Native Americans and the Japanese. Cut the check and the end user will decide what's best for them. And if they decide it needs to go in the form of a scholarship, they can buy their own. And if they decide it needs to go into the form of land, they can buy their own. And if they decide that it needs to go into the form of a trust fund, well, they can go get that themselves too. But it should be up to them, because here's the real issue. The real issue is it's not up to you to decide what's in their best interest. It already belongs to them. This is the part that these non-black folk here keep missing. It's already belong. It doesn't belong to the government. They all keep talking as if, ooh, this is money. No, this is ours. This is what is owed to us. These are funds that are already owed. This isn't some extra from somewhere. This isn't an additional or a supplement. This is already owed. It's not up to the government to decide, well, what's in your best interest. Like with your income tax refund. Imagine somebody saying, wait a minute now, we ain't gonna give you income tax refund. We know you overpaid, but we have decided that instead we should set you up a scholarship instead, because we don't think you'll use it properly. No, it's your money. And what do? There's some folks who go off and do dumb stuff and blow it on Gucci belts or some other nonsense. And for the unevolved, you're always going to have that. We're not here to get into a discussion of racism or the reckless. This is about reparations and what is owed, not racists or the reckless. Let me get Rhonda, Renee, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, brother. Thank you for allowing me to speak and be one to the family. I was really hot listening to that last caller, because it's like, everybody seems to think that they have a right to dictate how we spend our money. You know what I'm saying? Cut the check. You don't get to dictate how we spend our money or where our money go. You don't tell the Jews how to spend their money. You didn't tell the Japanese how to spend their money. But let me just stop before I keep going on, because it just really pissed me off. But as far as the Juneteenth holiday, I think that the fix is already in, to be honest with you, brother. And
Okay.
I think can you still hear me?
You went out for a minute, but go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I think as far as the Juneteenth holiday is concerned, the fix is already in. And I think that, there are already individuals that are out here, trying to co-opt our Juneteenth holiday. So I think that as aggressively as they are to co-opt, we have to be as more aggressive into taking control of our holiday, and not allowing other people to dictate to us, how it should be. And I'm gonna land my plane on that. B1.
Thank you very much for checking in with us tonight. B1 is always here. And like I say, if you have something that's valuable, somebody's always going to try to take it. I don't think the argument can be, well, somebody's going to try to take it, so what do we do? If you have something valuable, somebody's always going to take it. What is your code when somebody wants to take what you got? Either you have a code as a people that what you have, you're going to stand 10 toes down for it, or, well, if we got it, if somebody take it, Jesus will provide. Get your hand out. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Peace, family. Peace, Black Authority. Answer the question. I think it's good that the holiday is celebrated nationally. That the feds have made it something that is known throughout the world. I think that we need an atom bomb of consciousness, and Black history has been taken. When you look at Black History Month and the creation of it, We didn't know at that time what was going to go down. We didn't understand the tools of white. We didn't understand the motives, the strategies that they were going to take it, co-opt it, and make it something that was neutered, that everybody can get involved in. But now at 2021 or 2022, I'm sorry, through the knowledge that's given to us by the black media and the people waking up, that we can safeguard it a lot better. I think that in the past, and just like the gentleman that just called in, we're used to black folks not gatekeeping anything. That we leave the door wide open. Hey, come on in. Everybody's welcome. We got you. You safe, and that speaks to the spirit of black Americans. That we had towns and civilizations that the doors were unlocked because we didn't have to worry about anybody coming in and killing us and raping us and taking our things. That's the essence of our spirit. And unfortunately, we got to be more warrior-like. We got to be soldier-like. Where, like the brother had said a few speeches ago, that if a nickel bag is sown, we want a piece of it. We got to be on that type of time. And so even the commentary of ethnic others dealing with our situation, we're going to shut it down right away. See, the comfortability of him to come into a black space and suggest what we should do. And we've talked about it over and over again. Whenever it comes to us to getting money, there's always these barriers and realizations that we got to go through, plebiscites and things of that nature, that we have to garner and people have to study and all this other stuff. And you guys called it out with the HR 40, that it was a nothing burger from the get-go. So once we brought up reparations, so you can say, oh, we doing the HR 40. We respect that. We're going to put that out there. And we look through it, and it's nothing. You see, so with the Juneteenth holiday gives us an opportunity really to get to the young people that we talked about getting to vote for Marcel. We want others to...
It really does. I think you make a good point. What it really does is give us an opportunity to exercise that we can be uncompromising, to show the kids, the elderly, the next generation, that when you got something that's valuable, you're going to have folk running up to you trying to get you to compromise, trying to see if you can hand it off on the cheap. And our job is to show them through our actions. When folk come up trying to talk to you about compromising, here's how you deal with that. Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Let me get John V. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, how's it going, Jason?
Black first as always. What's on your mind?
B1, brother. Yeah, I just wanted to first of all talk about the Hispanic guy. He kind of what's going on with everybody that feels this maternal thing over us black folks, man? Why does everybody feel that they need to be our parents and need to instruct us and teach us and tell us on how to move and how to take care of ourselves? That's one thing that I really can't stand, especially coming from some non-black people. It's really condescending. It's really kind of disrespectful for them to sit up and tell us, well, y'all should find somebody to manage our money because you ain't gonna do it. And what difference?
Well, it really does show you how sensitive to black people elevating they are.
Yes.
It really shows you how hypersensitive. If black people as a group, because there's one thing to say as an individual. As an individual, they don't worry about an Oprah here and a Michael Jordan over there. When black folks start talking about some type of elevation as a group, whether it's a voting bloc, socially, damn sure economically, all of a sudden you find out how hypersensitive and hyper interested people are. All of a sudden it's, hey, what y'all doing over there? All of a sudden it's meritorious manumission all of a sudden.
That's right. And I really get tired of hearing that type of stuff. And I believe that that's a talking point that most of them use. I think it's some type of, a talking point that's sent out by certain people to try to undermine what we have going on here too. And also, as far as this Juneteenth, we all know what's going on with the Juneteenth. Like, they want to co-opt that to try to water it down and try to dismantle it and, bring everybody into it and make it a part of everything to try to water it down. They know that the power base will shift just as soon as it happens. So they're doing everything that they can to not make it happen. No, Juneteenth does not benefit foundational black Americans or descendants of slaves. What it does is that making it a federal holiday actually undermines our causes because it's trying to lump us in with everybody else so that they can discount doing what's right and doing what's required of them and what's owed of them for us,
Well, certainly it's power if you can hold it, if you can take it and hold it. Thank you very much for checking in with us here. Everybody who's got your hand up, just hold on a few minutes. I see you naturally, Tura, and the devil herself. I'll get to you all in here in just a moment. Let me get Northern Light. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Northern Light, go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, they unmuted themselves and I don't hear them.
I don't hear her either. How
All
about
right, let's go ahead and mute them back here. The devil herself, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Is it there now?
Okay, Northern Light, you'll need to wait. The devil herself, go ahead and
All
unmute
right.
yourself.
Hey y'all. I'm one of the youngins, but I am a foundational Black American.
How old are you?
I'm 22.
All right.
But I am part of the Georgetown 272, if you guys have heard of that. But I am definitely for cash reparations. I don't know why that guy came in here and started all that, but I feel like when it comes to people that are not Black or descendants of slaves and they decide to speak on this topic, it kind of just comes across as tone deaf and a little offensive and insulting of our intelligence. About the Juneteenth as a federal holiday, I'm definitely in agreement with the kind of privatization and the corporation of Black people taking care of Juneteenth within our own community. It's not a holiday that people that are not Black or even descendants of slaves should really be celebrating, because what are you celebrating? Like, you have nothing to relate to that. Um, but yeah, I just feel like, we need to start not even gatekeeping, but protecting what's ours, because it's been taken one too many times. And we really need to be selective, even within our own community, because not every person that's your color is your sister or brother. But
Well, I want you to get accustomed to that idea, though. Don't be afraid of that word. We do need to gatekeep, don't that's very, very good. There needs to be a
but
who goes there mentality, especially for those of you who are young. I want you to get used to that idea, because you are really the first and in many cases the only line of defense. And if they can get you to compromise a little bit, and when folk come up, you have to be very, very certain about what it is you're protecting. So yes, it is gatekeeping. You need to protect your culture like you protect your children, because they really are one and the same. They really are.
yeah, no, it really is. It's a legacy. And if you don't protect your legacy, then how are your children's children going to know the story, of your ancestors and the ancestors before you? So it is definitely an important thing. But I just wanted to, say that because, from a young perspective, I know he got on here and said some foolishness, but not every young person is on that time. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for checking in with us here. We appreciate that. Let me get Naturally Tura. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Naturally Tura, go ahead and unmute yourself. Naturally Tura is trying to connect. They must be out driving. Okay, I'm not hearing them here, so not sure what's happening to them. It just says they're connecting. Oh, gave them a chance there. Let me see. Cassandra, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, TBA, for allowing me to speak. Personally, to answer your question, does it benefit us, FBA, DAs? No, it does not. I'm from Texas, and I'm highly offended at the fact that they would even make it a federal holiday. It originated in Texas. It originated because of Black people, B1 people, Black people, whatever you want to call us. And I'm highly offended at the fact that it's a federal holiday, because to give white people a chance to celebrate and have a day off with pay, and it has nothing to do with them. So the little young sister that just was speaking, I'm proud of her for being at the age of 22, and sounds like to me she's on code or headed that way one. Thank you just for the time.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Imagine giving the Holocaust survivors a holiday in Germany and saying that everybody can go home. Gives you something to think about there. Let me get I Am Woke Melanin. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Peace, brother. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. What's on your mind?
Something's going on with the app here. B1 family, thank you. I don't think that having it as a holiday helps us. Um, I'm 46 years old. I've been celebrating Juneteenth since I was 8 years old. I was really pissed off when they made it a holiday, and you know, one of the things I would like to, let people know is that it's not a celebration; it's a commemoration. You know, I listened to Professor Black Truth's his broadcast on it, and he was right and exact, and I support everything he said. Yes, we should be commemorating ourselves and our ancestors and everything, and coming together and forming plans to unite and build. This is the time, and we definitely shouldn't allow these other people to come in and just take what's ours. That's part of the problem. We're just allowing them to come into the cookout and do whatever they want to do, put their feet on the table, messing with the grill. We just do too much of that. So, it's our day, you know, and it's a commemoration of us and our ancestors and our history. And yes, we must continue to celebrate it and support it and take ownership of it.
I agree. Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Let me get Northern Lights, see if you can unmute yourself again. Okay, Northern Lights is happening to you again. You unmuted yourself and we can't hear you.
Um, is it better now?
Yes, we hear you now.
Oh, okay. I thank you for your time. To answer your question, I really do think that Juneteenth being a federal holiday paves the way for our federal government to invest into our Black troops. This Juneteenth gives us time to have a conversation with our families to let them know that without the Black troops, the Civil War would not have been won. Had there not have been Black Army men that rolled down with Granger, they may not have gotten that message. So for me and for all of the men in my family that have been in the armed forces, it is particular to our Black troops. I would very much like there to be some type of law like they've got for like the American flag. Let there be some type of code around Juneteenth so we can own it. Let them invest in statues and memorials for our Black troops that actually freed America.
I absolutely agree with that. That's what I was saying before is that, if we're going to be, we need to treat that under the guise, under the categorization of a protected class of people. So it's not enough to just have a day or something. It needs to be taken much further than that. Thank you very much for checking in with us here. Let me get Professor Cause. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Jason Black, for taking my call, letting me speak. Been listening to you for some years now, and good evening to everybody in this space. To answer the question, does Juneteenth as a Fed holiday help Black FBA DOS? I think it does, because it does give us the opportunity on a national scale to commemorate our ancestry as well as our legacy. But it's also important. I think a couple of speakers back was mentioning how the importance of gatekeeping. This is a very important thing to do. In reference to something that commemorates our ancestry and our legacy. Because I live in the Tampa Bay area, Tampa, Florida, and all I see is everybody waving their flag, having pride in what they're doing, having pride in their culture. So it's important for us to do that as well. So if we have it on a national scale, it could open the door for future opportunities, like you said, reparations. So we just got to continue to beat that drum and continue to educate our people and be on code in that regard. But thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here. Let me get Friedman. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening, TBA. Thank you for letting me speak. As far as the question, does Juneteenth as a federal holiday help Black FBA DAs? I would say no, and it's the federal holiday part where I would say no, as already people are starting to confuse the day. I was in another space a couple of days ago with an immigrant, and they were arguing with me that it's actually 20th on the 20th because that's the day of that the federal government has decided it. So it'll be on the 21st and the 22nd, even though it's called Juneteenth. It's already people's, rushing in other groups, Pan Africanists, other immigrants, Latinos, and people saying it's for them too. I believe the elder lady that was the one that I guess was there when Joe Biden signed it into a federal holiday has saying, I believe she's come out and said that it's not just for Black people. So I don't think it being a federal holiday has helped us at all. I think people are already taking it over. There was a concert given by CNN, and they had all these great Black artists, and Earth, Wind, and Fire, Velvet DeVoe, and all that. And they were talking about how honored they were to be performing, but nobody talked about reparations. Nobody talked about what we do going forward. It's basically going to be like the King holiday, where it's going to be commercialized. So I don't think that part, the federal holiday, is going to help us at this point. And with that, I mute.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Well, certainly, like I say, it's going to be impossible to stop the commercialization of something entering the commerce. That's going to be basically impossible to do so. But what isn't impossible to do so is to control it. Now, that's not impossible. Let me get Wandre Morris. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening, TBA. I'm a little late to the space, but I was wondering, has anybody ever asked the questions of, is there a federal holiday for Cinco de Mayo? Is there a federal holiday for, dang it, I had it in my mind.
I mean, well, you can go down the list of it for, Chinese New Year, for, Jewish holidays, for example. There's a bunch of Jewish holidays. There's not just one. So, yeah, I mean, Cinco de Mayo and any of the rest of these, no, there isn't.
St. Patty's was the other day I was going to say. I don't see either of those being a federal holiday. So why was it so necessary for this symbolism of giving us this federal holiday to give themselves a day off?
Because just like in the 1960s, Black folk were in the streets revolting. So this history repeating itself. They were hoping that this would placate us now like it did then. I think they are a bit disappointed by the results.
All right. Thank you, TBA.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Let me get New Stack. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yo, what's up? How you doing? Good evening.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I got two questions about this whole topic. I first want to say Juneteenth is a psyop. It's obviously bullshit. But I want to say that a lot of people are aware of what happened in American history. And it's definitely a tragedy. But, I mean, I feel like what you're seeking from the government is not necessarily going to yield you the results that you're looking for. And obviously, you understand what I'm leaning towards here. I mean, I would like you to look at the monetary system. I mean, what do you think about the current system that we're in right now? And then cash payouts. How would you think that would affect the economy?
Yeah, well, it will affect it exactly the same way it did when they spent trillions on COVID.
Right. So now, how fast do you think that if the money was printed and sent into the hands or whatever accounts of the people that necessarily need it? And I'm talking about the descendants of slaves and the descendants of in freedmen. And what I'm saying about it is,
I don't worry
if the
about that
dollar
at
amount,
all. I don't worry
if the
about it at
dollar
all.
amount is in the trillions, if the dollar amount is in the trillions, what I'm saying is it's going to have to come directly to a certain group of people, correct? And
Okay, well, it doesn't bother me at all. They just need to cut the check. We'll worry about the fallout and the consequences after the fact. Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Let me get, what is this? 1791 80 49 11. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I would say symbolism without substance is just bread and circus. It's obvious, as everybody has been alluding to, even yourself, that the holiday has already been compromised. I appreciate the fact that you mentioned Neely Fuller. Gentlemen like him, Amos Wilson, have already provided the frameworks and the blueprints for us to achieve real freedom. So, in terms of making Juneteenth anything other than symbolism, we're really going to have to do what you said: take power, and achieve freedom and sustain it through our own will. And one more thing I would like to throw back on the table just for perspective, in terms of not pocket checking and watching what other people do with their money, people are going to waste it. Just like Neely Fuller and Amos Wilson have provided some type of frameworks, do you think it still would be beneficial to put out some, if you will, supplemental or suggest some type of reading or study so that we can be on code in terms of how we spend, even though we know that people are going to waste it, and that's fine. That's just what it is. Do you think still it's worth as a part of this movement moving forward to exchange ideas and codes and things of that nature in terms of building our own internal economy to keep that money, whatever is cut, going
Well,
and tripling and quadrupling?
here's the thing you have to take a look at, okay? Coming out of antebellum slavery, you had black people spending their own communities, building their own communities. And you watched as those were systematically destroyed physically, violently, militarily. And then when the Highway Act comes through, they just continue the process. So basically, you've seen a government campaign of anything tangible that black people have achieved being systematically and ruthlessly taken from them. So once you realize that's part of the government plan and that's what it does every single time, let me be very, very clear. I am not saying that reparations must be limited to cash payments. What I am saying is that anything without cash payments would be useless.
I
I
totally
can't
agree.
I can't control everything. We
I
can't
totally agree.
control everything. And if the requirement becomes like with the young fellow who's half Latino, who was basically the argument when people start making the enemy, the turning the perfect into the enemy of the good. If the argument becomes we shouldn't do reparations unless nobody's going to waste it, well, by definition, we would never have commerce of any kind. If you make that a requirement, why are you singling us out? That okay, but for this transaction, everybody got to do what I think would be unwasteful. So we can't allow that to occur. By the
Understood.
same token, if we waited until everyone was ready, once again, we would never make a move. If we waited until everyone was of a sound mind, was properly trained, was capable, if we waited until that happened, it would simply never occur. So, like anything else, the best time to do it was 100 years ago. The second best time to do it is today. And we will deal with the repercussions of it.
Understood.
That's just a part of what it is. Thank you very much for checking in with us here. Let me get Naturally Tura. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks, Jason. B1 family. I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but that guy, he came in like they do a lot of our spaces with the, oh, I'm half FBA. But yeah, he was coming into space as FBA, but he was caping for his Colombian side. That's first of all. And those bad faith arguments about they're going to co-op or misuse the money, they're going to do that with medical housing and anything else. And I'm so glad that you straighten it out in regards to it doesn't matter how people spend their money. Meanwhile, they gave Asians 50 million and you got massage parlors popping up all over the place and they're running, sex trafficking rings throughout these nail parlors, and no one's checking what anyone else is doing with their money until it comes to us. So I'm glad you cleared that up. But they always come in our space with their splash of FBA, and then when you let them talk a little bit longer, they are really caping for their non-FBI FBA side. So I just wanted to land it there, and thank you.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Let me get Twizzle FBA. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, Jason Black? Hey, I just want to answer the question, and I'm in and I'm out. Does Juneteenth as a fed holiday help black people? Hell no. They put that up there as a pacifier and a deterrent. And if anybody bite off into it, their definition coon has been certified. We need to leave people like that who bite off into little weak symbolism like this alone. Y'all been you, Jason Black, I mean you, Professor Black Truth, and Tariq been warning us about shit like this for years. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to say, anybody biting off into that shit, we know who you are. And Jason Black, keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm out.
Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Talent, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh man, peace to the room. Peace to you, Jason Black. I think that this directly is beneficial to us because it gives us a good problem to deal with. I think a lot of misnomers exist out there. A lot of misappropriations of our culture has kind of been led up to this point, and it gives us an opportunity on the national level to get things straightened. I mean, even as simple as I've seen a bunch of different campaigns on Twitter having people put the correct flag, utilizing the correct colors. And I think it also gives us a yearly reminder to meet amongst our peers, people on code, to share information about who's doing the work, whether it's the work in Cali, New York, different areas. Really helps us get in condition of young kids, to get on code, to know the true history of our people, to know the difference between 1863 and 1865, and the symbolism between that being free, but having to be alerted that you've been free for 2 years. So I think that it's a good problem in the sense that it gives us work to do. That is work that we necessarily have to do when it comes to getting more of our people on code. And then I think on a larger scale, it continues to allow us to position, the voice and the code and the terms of
Well, it allows
agreement
us
that
to
we want to
set the
move on.
parameters of it. You're building, what you're doing is defining your culture.
Yeah,
Thank you
exactly.
very much for giving us a call. They're having a domestic dispute back there. But like I say, what we're doing is we're defining ourselves. We're defining our culture. We are setting hard boundaries. And this is all a process of it. To other folk, it'll look messy. No, it's only messy because you're trying to figure out a way to snatch it from us. But we already know who and what we are. Let me get Afro Elite. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
B1 TBA. To answer the question, I'm going to say no. It doesn't benefit foundational Black Americans. A few days ago, I was having a conversation with my little sister about symbolism, and she's 18, by the way, but she asked me, is symbolism a bad thing? And I said, technically, no, symbolism is not a bad thing. You have white people who riot over statues. So symbolism isn't a bad thing intrinsically. It's the fact that the dominant society uses symbolism and they make it seem as if that's a justifiable replacement for tangibles. Some making Juneteenth a holiday is tangibles, is actually going to help Black people. And they've been getting away with using symbolisms as if it's something compensatory, as if it's a form of compensatory justice. And I believe one of the reasons why making Juneteenth a holiday isn't as effective as what they wanted it to be, because we've already been celebrating Juneteenth. Foundational Black Americans, my family has been celebrating Juneteenth for as long as I remember. Just like Professor Black Truth said, you take a holiday. He's been saying that a lot, and that's something that we've done. So to us, Foundational Black Americans, it doesn't matter if it's a federal holiday. And in fact, most of the people that I've spoken to about Juneteenth being a federal holiday, most of the people dislike it. We
Well,
don't like the
it's when it comes to the Chinese New Year, when it comes to Ramadan, St. Patrick's Day, when it comes to, any of these other things, these other folks, Cinco de Mayo, these other folk don't ask. You know, that's a part of their culture. That's what they do. If they own a business, guess what? It's closed today. You know, like for example, I keep reminding people, I buy gear from a lot of places around the country, two places in particular, B&H Photo and Adorama. Both of them are owned by Hasidic Jews. Those websites, and these are major websites, major retailers of electronics gear, and they close on the Jewish holidays. I mean, all of them, the Feast of Unleavened Bread and a bunch of the Feast of Trumpets, a bunch of things you all have never heard of before. So Yom Kippur, they close on all the Jewish holidays, all of them. So sometimes I'll be on a random Saturday and like, oh boy, I got about 30 minutes to make an order because the website's about to close, at least for a day. So these other folks don't ask for that. You're absolutely right. You don't ask for that. Now, to go to what you said to your sister about symbolism, is symbolism in and of itself a bad thing? Absolutely not. It is not a bad thing, assuming that the thing it symbolizes is grounded in a solid understanding. For example, when you go to church, they might have an altar, they might have a statue, and at the base of it, it says, "In remembrance of me." They might have a statue of the Virgin Mary. Now, do you really believe, does anybody in that church believe that the Virgin Mary is in that statue? Absolutely not. Do they believe that Jesus is in that statue? Absolutely they don't. Then what will they tell you? Well, it's what it represents. That's what they're looking for. So when you understand what it represents, then all of a sudden, that's when you understand the value of symbolism. So for us, symbolism is a valuable thing. Symbolism can be valuable as long as what is being symbolized is grounded firmly in the minds and the hearts of the people. If they have a clear understanding of what it is. If it's vague, if it's vacuous, if it's tenuous, if we're not really sure, if it's got sycophantic who got downright terrible motives horning in on it, then symbolism becomes worthless. Thank you very much for checking in with us here tonight. Let me get DK Guy. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, TBA and FBA family. I think that there is some positive that could come out of this Juneteenth federal holiday if we handle it strategically. And to piggyback off of what you just said and what Afro Elite just said, the only other Black holiday, federal, or holiday that relates to Black people is the Martin Luther King's holiday. And excuse me, what the white supremacists have been successful at has been changing the meaning of the civil rights struggle and making it about feminist issues, LGBT, immigration, whereby when that holiday comes around, you have all these different groups that are all excited about their version of what Martin Luther King's holiday means. Whereas with Juneteenth, that's a specific event that cannot be remixed, that only relates to Black Americans who are descendants of slaves in America. So on that day, I think that would be a great opportunity for us to internationally amplify our justification for getting reparations.
Well, that along with our culture, our mission, our identity as a people, and how that's made the world a better place, all of those things together. You know, when people talk about freedom around the world, they come back to us. Whether it's Tiananmen Square or the Middle East, they come back to us. So that has been a powerful force in the world, not symbolic either. That's not symbolic. That's actually been a tangible thing. So, of course, if that helps embody it, absolutely, I'm in favor of that. Let me get Tavante. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Jason. Jason?
Yes, you're on.
Can I ask you a music-related question?
No. Okay, well, let me make sure And folks, if you've been doing your mollies, just understand I'm not in any type of mood to hear any type of molly babble. Let's not do that. So let me go ahead and check and see if I've got anything else here. Like I say, some folks, they do their cocaine and then they get on Twitter space. It's like, well, I wonder if Jason has a joke for us. It will not go well, believe me. It will not go well. Let me go ahead and get Tim Smith. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, David. Jason, this is Tim from Jacksonville, Florida. Hey, one thing I noticed that it's not really a good thing, but it also gives us like an example of that they threw something to us at a negotiating table and we just looked at it stone faced and didn't care about it. Like we just, all right, what else you got?
Yeah, we could take it or leave it. It was a non-issue, so it really fell flat. The corporate media is going to try to pump it up. Is there value in it? Sure. The most important thing is they got the point, which was black folk didn't say, well, we got a federal holiday, let's go home. Black folk were like, okay, that's cool. Now back to the subject at hand, which is why they are in trouble. I reposted on my Twitter page earlier here. They're in political trouble and they know it. They're in political trouble and they are acknowledging it, that there are all kinds of huge gaps. So no, we haven't done that. I posted an article that said that America's on edge and that's bad news for the White House. Yeah, we didn't go for it. It's like, okay, that's cool and everything, but we get the point. We know why you did this. And while we're not in the position to say, yeah, never mind, nobody's sitting over here doing cartwheels and saying, yeah, this was what we wanted. We didn't ask for it. We didn't demand it. We didn't get to set the parameters of it. So at this point, it's really just a optional non-issue. Cut the check. Thank you very much for checking in with us tonight. Stephen, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
What's up, Jason?
Black first, what's on your mind?
All right. Answer to the question is TBA, to be announced. And I'm going to make 3 quick points and then do what you do. But first and foremost, being a federal holiday, you got to understand that it's not just the conservatives, but it's the same liberals that voted to make a holiday, but at the same time trying to keep the history of it out of the schools and being taught. So it's like, it doesn't really make any sense. If it's going to be a national holiday, but you don't want people to know what the holiday represents, I don't see how you move forward. Secondly, a lot of people that I hear calling up are worrying about what other people are taking from the holiday, getting paid on the free holiday. It's like the minute that people get something like a movement going, it's like the focus navigates to the things that don't even matter and instead of staying focused on the focal point, the outcome, the very outcome that we desire. And thirdly, I'll just say this. I agree with you probably for the first time on everything that you stated. But what about the COVID money that they gave out to the people who are the opposite race? So when all that COVID money went to them for their so-called businesses, all that money was misplaced, but you never heard a word about it. And I'll let it go. All right, thank you.
Thank you for checking in here tonight. If he's agreeing with me, he's finally getting his head right. So let's hope it lasts. Well, like I say, definitely it has an opportunity to do something here, and it is what you may make of it. Does it help black folk? It could. My answer is, does Juneteenth being a federal holiday help us? My answer to you is it could. It might, depending on what we do with it, depending on how jealously we guard it, depending on what we make of it, depending on the firm boundaries that we insist on it having. Yeah, it could. It certainly could do that. And I certainly hope it does. We need to have as much cultural real estate as possible, and it needs to be defined by us in our interests. So I'd like to see that as well. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. If you're new here to the Twitter space, welcome. I'm very glad to see you all here tonight. If you are a follower of mine on Twitter, or if you just found us here tonight, go ahead and follow me on Twitter and look on my profile. You're going to see the link to my YouTube channel. A lot of great things we discuss over there as well. So if you really want to get gamed up, go ahead and click on that and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you came here from my YouTube channel, go ahead and follow me here on Twitter. I'd love to have you. I want to thank all of you for joining us here on tonight's Twitter space. And this concludes this program. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world,